Okay, I think we're recording. Welcome to Training 2. This week's topic for Canvas is going to be all about pages and assignments. So we're going to go over how to create a page in Canvas and then how to create an assignment in Canvas. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Today's training is going to assume that you at least know the information from Training 1, which just covered how to get to Canvas and then how to initially set up a course. So we're going to hop right in. If you're watching this as a recording and you haven't seen Training 1 and you're not sure if you're getting lost on where I am, maybe go check out Training 1 if you hadn't seen it, and then come back here. But let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen. Just as a reminder, you are free to place your questions in the chat. I'll also pause to see if anybody has questions. And yeah, we'll get them answered as we go. So for starters, last week this is the course that you registered for these trainings, and then you had to sign up using the links because I figured not everybody'd want to go to every one of these. I figured you'd pick the one with the topics that interested you. But feel free to check each week if you did not get to attend one of the trainings, because you can actually come in here and view the recording. I will place the recording on this page for each one of these trainings. So here's the recording from Training 1 tomorrow, give or take. Training 2's recording will go up here, and I will post an announcement to let you know when that's available. But to get started, what we're going to be talking about today is actually, we talked about how to build a course. So now we're going to talk about, now we've got our template. I do see someone posted a question, can't find it. It's just on the page where you registered for this training. So I'll just place the link in here again, just so you have a direct link. Okay, so we've got our course going. What we're going to do first to create a page is we got to have a place to house the page. So we've talked previously about modules and how a module is kind of just this clump of links, and you can think of it like a drawer to a filing cabinet. So in my case, I use the example that I taught Science 7, and I would have a drawer for each one of my units. Well, I could do that in Canvas as well. So when my students come here, they'll be able to see these chunks and see that they're labeled on top. So this one says Unit 1, and then they can see their resources for that unit. But I've also seen teachers organize this by week. They'll have like week 1, week 2, week 3, however you want to do it. It's just, making it consistent. But in order to create a module so that we can start housing our pages and assignments we're going to create, what we're going to do is we're going to come up here to the very top, and there is going to be a plus module button. So if I click plus module, I can then give it a name. So in this case, I'm just going to call this Unit 2 and hit Add Module. And what that does is it pops up a module down at the bottom of the page. If I want to move it, I can take these dots, I can hover over these, and I can click and I can drag my module to where I want it to go. So I'm going to come up here to Unit 2 and just click and drag it. And as a side note, I can also do that with pages and assignments. So that's how you move things. So if I wanted to move this example assignment up here to this other module, I just have to click and drag it. So it's pretty easy. So I'll just click and drag and move things, and then I can organize it that way. Once I'm in here, I'll notice that the resource has a gray circle with a slash through it. Just like last week when we talked about publishing a course or unpublishing a course, it's the same thing with resources within your course. So if you want to work on something like a module, or you just don't want your students to see it yet, you can just leave it alone and leave it unpublished. So where this gray circle and slash is. To publish it, you just have to click, and then you can publish module and all items, which will publish everything, or just publish the module only. So if these green check marks indicate that it's published and your students can see it. So you can come in here and you can click. Just click the little button and that will publish and unpublish it. So once your course is published, then you can publish materials in your course as you want your students to see it. What I've done in the past is if I like organize my course by weeks and I didn't want them to see week 3, 4, 5, 6 yet, I could just leave it unpublished and then publish it when I'm ready for them to have access. So it's pretty easy. Just click on the button and then you can select. Once I've created the module, I can then begin adding things to it. So if I go to this plus button up here in the top right corner of the module, I can click and there is a drop-down menu with different options. You can pick an assignment, which we'll go over today, a quiz, which is another training. Here's a file. That's where you can upload like a Word document or a PowerPoint. Here's a page, which is just an informational page. It's kind of like a Canvas's version of a Word doc. And I'll show you what that looks like. And then there's the discussion boards. And then there's some other ones down here that we can talk about later. But like here's external URL. So if you want to place a link to something, you can use that, click on that, and then, place your link, give it a name, all that good stuff. But we'll be going over this stuff in following trainings. Today, we're going to focus on a page, though. So I'm going to click to add a page. And if I've already created a page somewhere else and I wanted to just add it to this module, I can select it from the list. But if I want to do a brand new one, I can do create page up here at the top. And I'm just going to put, let's put October overview. And hit add item. So once I hit add item, that pops that page right into my module and it comes in unpublished, which I want for now. And then I just got to click on it to start adding things to it. So I'm going to click here and that's going to open up this overview page. Now, let's pause here because I went through some information about creating a module and all that stuff. I just wanted to see if there's any questions about what we've covered so far about creating a module, moving it around, and then how I can add a resource to it. I've got my chat open and you're free to unmute if you have a mic. Okay. So with that, let's start jumping into like actually creating and editing a page. So the way that I can edit this is just like what we talked about last time. At the top right corner of any resource in Canvas, I'm going to see an edit button. And this edit button is what I have to click on to get into my view. So I click edit. And then that opens up this menu or this page. And you'll notice along the top, you've got the same like HTML toolbar is what I think is what they call it. I guess I should probably look at what exactly they call it. But this same toolbar that you see in a lot of different resources, it's kind of standardized with a few changes here and there, but it's going to look similar to Word and PowerPoint and all that. And a lot of these tools are going to be the same. So like, if I want to type, I can click in it and then I can type some words. So introduction. Just like in Word, I can highlight it and I can bold it. I can italicize it. I can underline it. I can even highlight it. So here's the highlight, so on and so forth. So very similar tools to what you'll find in other resources. And you're free to just go into one of your courses and play around with these tools. The other thing I can do is like where it says paragraph here, similar to Word, I can select headings. So these headings allow me to organize the content. So I'm just going to do heading 2, introduction. I picked heading 2 because there's no heading 1. The reason for that is this is heading 1 up here at the top. So then I click down and I can put these are the words that I am going to place here for that. Okay, so I can type onto my page. Additionally, what I have is these same dots that allow me to move pages around. If I hover over this and I click and drag, I can make this box bigger. So sometimes people complain, and I've complained myself, that these boxes are too small based on whatever screen you're using. It looked fine for me because I'm on my big monitor, but when I'm on my laptop, it gets really small. So if I'm not connected to my monitor, I like to extend this out. So, but I can click and I can drag and I can make this bigger. So that just gives me a bigger working space. Also, I can go full screen if I want. Here's the little full screen button. That just brings it up full screen, gives me the same tools. Oh, wow. Gives me the same tools and everything, but I've got my full screen to work on. So it's just up to your personal preference. But now I'm not just going to go one by one through each of these items, showing you things that you can find in other resources. What I think you should do is kind of explore some of these. It's very similar to other HTML bars. But what I did want to do is show you some of the unique things that are in here that I haven't necessarily seen in other places so that you're aware the option exists. So coming down the list, one difference is, so here's how you add a link. So here's all my text tools. Here's how you add a link. So I can do an external link or a course link, just like adding a link to a resource. You might have noticed that in our Canvas beginner level page. I have links on here. That's how I inserted those. Those links go to bookings where you could register for whatever trainings you were interested in. Need to get rid of this little recording bar. Okay. This thing drives me nuts. It's always right there. But anyway, so that's how you can add like a link. Here's the photos area. So very similar to other resources. And yes, it works just as janky as it does in Word. But if you click like upload image, you can select an image from your computer. Let's just add this. Open. Now what Canvas is going to do is it's going to require you to put some alt text. So I just describe what the image is. So I'll put beginner level trainings. Or if it's purely decorative, so if it's not like enhancing your content at all, you can just click this decorative image button and then you don't need any alt text. I'm just going to say this is decorative. But anyway, once I've done that, I can hit submit. And from here, I can click and, drag and adjust the size. Just like Word, unfortunately, you can't like just move it around like this to where you want. You got to kind of play with it like in Word, but you can experiment with that. The other tool, and this is something that's really unique to Canvas, I use this quite a bit. I'm going to make a space up here at the top. There is a media button. So this media button right here, what this does is it allows you to put in media, like a video or a recording of your voice. And so you can either, if you've made it before, you can just plug it in like this. So I can do course media and I can find a file that I've uploaded or something and I can plug that in right there. If I go to user media, I believe that pulls it from all of your courses. But one of the really cool things about this that I like is the upload record media button that's built right into the page. So what I can do is I can hit upload record media. And from here, I can either pick a file from my computer, or if I want to, I can come over here to this record area. And what this does is it brings up a box. You can see my real office background now with my very stylish floral painting. But what I can do is from here, I can turn off my webcam if I don't want video. I'm going to leave video on for this though. And then I'm just going to hit start recording. So we let it count down. And now what I can do is I can actually record a quick message to my students. Blah, 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 blah. This is today's assignment. I want you to go through this. So if I have like a set of really long instructions or something, what I can do is I can just record myself explaining it and blah, 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 blah. And once I'm done giving these instructions, I can hit finish. I can give it a name if I want. I'm not going to in this case. I'm just going to hit save media. And that plugs the video right there on my page. So just like that. So I really like that feature because if you have like a complicated set of instructions, or if it's just a lot and you don't want a huge page of text, you can just record a video of it, And so, and it's very quick and easy to upload stuff. So then I hit play on here down. And now what I can do is I can actually record a quick message to my students. So that video plays and then I can resize it. If I want to make it huge and really frighten my students, I can do that. Or I can make it smaller and I can move it around just like an image. So I really like that feature. Okay. Moving on down the list. So that's an icon maker thing. I'm going to save that for later. We have a few other options. So like there's an Office 365 button. And if you're signed into Office 365, which I don't know if I am or not, I might have too many things running on my computer right now. It can be a little janky, but when it works, it's nice. What this does is if you click on the Office 365 button, it lets you plug a file from your OneDrive directly in here. Otherwise, you can just go copy and paste a link on the page. It's whatever works best for you. There's also a Teams option. I haven't played with this too much myself because usually what I'll do is I'll create a Teams meeting like in Teams and then I'll just paste the link onto the page. But this gives you the ability to create it in Canvas as well. So you can kind of play with that. But like I said, I usually just create it in Teams and then paste it into the course. So copy paste. Questions over the tools we've covered so far before we go over the last ones for page creation? Okay. Last couple things. There are more tools hiding. This is one thing I do not like about their HTML editor bar, but once you get used to it, it's kind of second nature. But there's 3 dots over here at the end, and this actually displays more tools. So if I click the 3 dots, this gives me like my bullet points and everything, and this gives me my text align. So like if I want to center this text here, I can come up here and I can center it, move it to the middle. This is indenting text. And then a common one that's used here is going to be your table. So I click on this table icon, just like Word. I can click through and I can create a table utilizing those tools. And so what I encourage you to do with pages is to just play around with it, create a practice page. You don't have to publish it, so your students will never even see it, or you can do it in your sandbox. Just play around with some of these tools, but do pay attention to like that video recorder. That thing's really neat. And then also the like image stuff, you can just play around with it and see what it looks like. So, but if you don't want to get fancy with it, you can just copy and paste links on the page. That's what most people do. And that's what I do a lot of times, but there are some additional things that you can do. So once I'm done with a page, what I can do is I can come down here, and if I wanted to, I could add this to my student to-do list. So if I click here, I can add a date. And what that's going to do is it's going to just notify the students that they have to look at that page. So it'll go on their calendar and stuff. So that can be kind of useful. And then I don't really play with this because if I don't want my students to have access to a page, I just don't publish it. But that's what this is for. You can set dates where they can and cannot access these pages. But like I said, you can set those dates, but you could also just publish and unpublish as you want students to see it. Whatever works best for you. That's one of the cool things about having a learning management system is you can kind of choose. You have multiple ways to do the same thing. You can choose what works best for you. So with that, I'm going to hit save, and I'm going to do save and publish instead of just plain save. And what that's going to do is publish my page. And so now if I come back to my modules, we'll see that I have this page published. But here's one thing I wanted to point out. If a page is published, but the module isn't, students won't be able to see that page. So you're going to want to make sure that if you want something in a module to be viewable, you're going to want to publish the module. So I'm going to publish that now. And then if I have multiple items on here, I can just click and unpublish the ones I don't want students to see. So it kind of goes in order. For your students to see your modules, your course has to be published. For your students to see your items, the module has to be published. Hopefully that makes sense. It's kind of a hierarchy. So the bigger has to be published to see the smaller. Okay. Any final questions about pages before we wrap up with assignments? Okay. So I am going to now go into my student view, which this is a button you all have access to. If you ever want to see what your course looks like as a student or test stuff, at the top of your modules, you have a view a student button, and I'm just going to click that. And what that does is it opens up this pink bar that shows me what my course looks like to my students. And so I'm going to come in here to an example assignment that I built earlier to kind of show you what this looks like. So for assignments, if I click on it as a student, I will see that it's giving me instructions right here, which I did not place very good instructions. But, you know, this would be more filled out if you had better instructions. And then down here, I just wanted to show you what these submission types look like. So these are some options for ways that your students can submit assignments to you. So the first one is just text. This just gives me a text box and I can type my answer in. So it says, what is your favorite planet and why? I'm going to put, I like Earth because of air. You need that to live. So I like Earth because of air. And then if I wanted to, I could hit submit assignment and I can just submit that quick text box to you. So that's a real quick, easy way to get like an exit ticket or something. Another option is a website URL. So if you have your students create something like a Nearpod or whatever, and you want them to submit a link to you, they can paste the link in here and hit submit. The other option, and this is kind of interesting, is you can put a media button in here, which actually records media. It allows them to record media just like we did when we created a page. So they can hit record media, and then that pops up that same box, and they can record themselves giving an answer and then hit submit. So that's really neat. There's annotate. I connected a document to this. And what the students can do is they can use these annotation tools to write on the document. So if I click, let's do it in red so it's more visible. This is cool. You know, and then they can click and drag it. And this works a lot better on the iPad, by the way, with their touchscreen. They can also draw. So I just connected a document to this, and I'll show you that here once we set up an assignment. And then finally, the last submission type that we have is old tried and truly upload a file. So you can hit upload, and this prompts the students to upload a file from their device. So if they have to submit something to you that they created as a file, that's how they can upload it. So those are the submission types that we have to pick from. Now, when you're creating an assignment, and you'll see this later, you can pick as many of these options as you want or as few. So if you only want one of these options for a submission, you just pick that. Or if I want to leave choices open, I can leave multiple of these open. So I'll show you that when we create an assignment. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to leave the assignment view, and I'm going to go in and we're going to look at what that looks like to create one of these. So I'm just going to hit the plus button just like before, and I'm going to go to assignment, which it's already on. And let's create a new one. So let's say planets assignment. Add item. I click on the planets assignment, and then I can hit edit up here at the top. You'll notice this looks exactly the same as setting up a page. That's why I started with that, because it's the exact same tool no matter what resource you're using. So you've got the same tools up here at the top. You can create the page to like basically give instructions. So you type your instructions here. Same thing as a page, but what we're really going to focus on here is the options that I have down here. So for starters, I can assign points. I always do 4 points because it kind of matches our grading scale that we have here at OPS, but that's up to you how you want to do it. You can convert it or whatever. I don't mess with assignment groups or displaying grades or anything like that. If I didn't want students to submit something, I'm not sure why you would do that, but the option is there. Otherwise, submission type is where we're going to indicate what kind of a submission we want our students to do. So if I click on this arrow, I'm going to pick online. And what this does is it gives me those options that we just went through from a student view. So here's the text box, the website URL, the media recording button, the annotation, and the file upload. From here, I can pick one or more options for students. And these are the options that are going to show up when they click on that assignment. For our example, I clicked all of these. That's probably not a great practice. I just did it for demonstration purposes. Maybe pick a couple, or dependent on the assignment type, you can pick more than a couple. It's up to you. You're the teacher, you know better than me. But you have the option to at least pick one, or you can pick multiple of these. So I'm just going to say that we'll do a text entry for this one and a media recording. If I wanted it to be an annotation, where they write on a document that I send them, which, by the way, they get a copy of that document. It does not change your parent document. I can click student annotation, and what this does is it allows me to upload a file from my computer onto here that the students then annotate and submit. So that's how you can do that. Upload file and it search your computer and attach it. But for this, I'm going to say text entry or media recording. So they can either record themselves answering the question or they can type their answer. I don't care which, so I'm going to pick both. For submission attempts, a lot of times people leave it on unlimited so that students can resubmit if you want them to. Otherwise, you can limit the attempts. Maybe you only want them to do it a few times. That just gives them the ability to submit multiple times if they need to. It'll replace the most previous one. But it kind of depends what you want. People always ask me about plagiarism view. I'm sorry. Plagiarism review does not work because we don't have the Turnitin thing. So just ignore that box. Group assignments, we'll kind of cover that on another day. Same thing with peer reviews. That's a little more advanced. I just want to show you a basic assignment. And that brings us down to the last part, which is down here. So what we had to do is set our points, set what kind of submission we wanted. And the only one I really pay attention to is on paper. There's a couple external tool options, but I'm just going to do online and then select my options there. And then I can skip all the way down to the bottom and go to assign access. So from here, it says that it's going to go to everybody and I can set a due date. You all know how that works. You set a due date. That's the time it tells the student that it's due. I can set the date and the time. But below that, I also have available from and until dates. And what this means is if I set a date here, that's the first date that they can submit the assignment. So if I set it to October 16th, that means that they cannot submit anything until that date. And then the until button means that they have until this date to submit an assignment. So like when I did science fair back in the day, I would have set like a date, maybe like a few days after the actual due date, just so that it would block students from submitting after that point. If you want to use these, you can. But I will tell you this, the only thing you really should use is the due date. You don't have to use these available dates if you don't want to. It'll still tell you if a student submitted late. It'll just still allow them to submit, if that makes sense. So the due date just is when it's due. The available dates are the dates that it's available and the dates until. And then finally, the last thing I can do is I can have multiple due dates on an assignment. So I can hit plus assign to down here at the bottom. And from here, if I click, I can find my students listed. If I had if I cross-listed my courses, I can pick those courses here as well. But let's say Jackie has an IEP and she needs more time to submit an assignment. I can select her and set a different due date for her. And she's the only one who sees that new due date because it's only assigned to her. But everybody else is going to see my original due date. And you'll see that this changed to everyone else. So I set a due date. Let's say she needs a couple days longer because of an IEP. We're going to do October 20th or whatever reason. Maybe they were absent. I don't know. And I can hit, once I set that, and I can have as many of these as I want. I've seen teachers have like 5 different due dates based on the situation. You just keep hitting assign to and then changing it. Once you're all done with that, you hit save, and I'm going to do save and publish. And now my assignment is available. So if my students click on it, they can see my instructions if I had put them up here. And from student view, which view as a student is up here at the top, they come in and they see my instructions and they see my 2 submission options. So, are there any final questions? I apologize, I went 1 minute over. Final questions. All right, great. I'm glad that that was helpful. You're free. I'm going to stop my recording now. But before I do, just to let everybody know who's watching live and who's watching the recording, just let me know if you have any questions. You can reach out to me and I will assist you.